There was a river the ancient Greeks feared more than death itself. Not because it drowned men, not because it hid monsters beneath its waters, but because once you crossed it, there was no return. They called it the Styx, a silent river said to wind through the darkness of the underworld, separating the world of the living from the kingdom of the dead. Every soul, king, soldier, child, philosopher, was believed to arrive at its shores eventually. No wealth could stop the journey. No power could delay it. And waiting there, in the cold mist along the black water, was a ferryman. Ancient Greece did not imagine death as peaceful. To them, the afterlife was distant, shadowed, and deeply uncertain. The dead did not rise into the heavens. They descended downward, beneath the earth, into the realm of Hades. The River Styx was the boundary between those worlds. Its waters were believed to possess terrifying power. The gods themselves swore sacred oaths upon the Styx, because breaking such an oath carried consequences even for immortals. In myth, the river was older than the Olympian gods, ancient, unforgiving, eternal. To stand before it was to stand at the edge of existence itself. The Greeks imagined the underworld not as a place of fire, but as a kingdom of shadows. Endless caves, empty fields, gray skies without sunlight, souls drifting like smoke through silence. And through that silence moved a small wooden boat. Its ferryman was known as Charon. He was often described as old beyond comprehension, thin, hooded, silent. A figure whose eyes had watched countless generations disappear into death. Night after night, century after century, he carried souls across the dark river toward eternity. But passage was never free. In many Greek burial traditions, families placed coins over the eyes or within the mouths of the dead. These coins were payment for Charon, a final offering before the journey into the underworld. Without it, the stories claimed, the soul could not cross. Instead, the dead were left stranded along the shores of the Styx, wandering endlessly through mist and darkness for 100 years before the ferryman would finally allow them aboard. To the Greeks, this was a horrifying fate. Not simply death, but abandonment. To die without burial rites meant your soul could become lost between worlds, neither alive nor truly at rest. Ancient funerals were not only ceremonies of grief, they were acts of protection. Families feared what might happen if the dead were forgotten, and in many ways, that fear still feels familiar. Across nearly every civilization, humans have feared being erased, forgotten, left behind by time itself. The River Styx gave that fear a shape. The crossing itself was imagined as slow and silent. Oars cutting through black water beneath a sky without stars. No voices, no return. Only the sound of the river moving endlessly through the dark. Some myths claimed the waters of the Styx could dissolve mortal things entirely. Others said they granted terrible power. According to legend, Achilles was dipped into the river as an infant by his mother, making his body nearly invulnerable everywhere except the heel by which she held him. Even in myth, the Styx was never just a river. It represented transformation, a line that could not be uncrossed. For the Greeks, life and death were not separated by judgment alone, but by passage. A journey from warmth into shadow, from memory into silence. And perhaps that is why the image of the ferryman survived for thousands of years. Because deep down, people still imagine death as a crossing, a final voyage into somewhere unknown. The myths surrounding the Styx spread far beyond Greece itself. Roman writers adopted the river into their own visions of the underworld. Poets described souls gathering at its banks like leaves carried by the wind. Artists painted Charon as terrifying, skeletal, inhuman. Yet beneath all these stories was something deeply human. Fear. Not only fear of dying, but fear of what comes after. What waits in the dark when the world finally becomes quiet. The Greeks could not answer that question, so they created rivers. Kings of the dead, ferrymen in the fog. They turned uncertainty into mythology, giving shape to the silence that follows every human life. And the River Styx became one of the most haunting symbols ever created. Even now, thousands of years later, its name still survives. Not because people truly believed a ferryman waits beneath the earth, but because the image remains powerful. A dark shoreline, black water disappearing into mist, a lone boat arriving soundlessly from the shadows, and somewhere upon it, a figure waiting patiently for the next soul to cross. Maybe that is why these myths endure. Because they speak to fears that never really vanished. The fear of death. The fear of oblivion. The fear of stepping into darkness without knowing what waits beyond it.